I'm gonna make him a video, he can't refuse.
Let's go over the best movies of each year of the 1970s. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Cinema Sermons. My name is Kevin, and we just finished up our 1980s review series where I went through each year of the decade and gave you my top 10 movies for each year. I am not that well versed in the 70s, but we're gonna go ahead and go through each year of the decade, and I'm gonna give you what I believe is the best movie of each year. Now, this is just my opinion. Doesn't mean it's right. So let me know if you disagree or agree down in the comments below, and let me know your favorite movies of the 1970s. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Hit the little notification bell. It helps me out tremendously. And let's go ahead and jump into the 70s. Groovy. The best movie of the year, 1970, is Patton. This is a biopic about World War II General George S. Patton. It is a long movie. I think it's like a 3-hour runtime, but it's phenomenally written. It has incredible dialogue, great quippy one-liners, and it shows the enigmatic character that Patton was, because he was a very controversial and enigmatic figure, and I think this movie does a great job of that. So the best movie of 1970 is Patton. Best movie of 1971 is The French Connection. This is a gritty crime thriller starring Gene Hackman, where he's a New York cop trying to find out what's going on with this drug ring, and it turns out that the drugs are coming somewhere from France, hence the name, The French Connection. I think this is the movie that really kick-started Gene Hackman into superstardom, and like I said, it kind of defined that gritty crime thrillers of the 70s, and it's just a fantastic movie. From here on is where we get into amazing movies, in my opinion. The best movie of 1972, hands down, is The Godfather. This actually won Best Picture for 1972. It is directed by Francis Ford Coppola and is written by Mario Puzo, who also wrote the book. According to the American Film Institute, this is the second greatest film of all time. By a lot of people, it is regarded as the greatest film of all time. I just rewatched it not that long ago. It is fantastic. Marlon Brando plays the character of the Godfather. Vito Corleone. Al Pacino plays Michael Corleone. Sonny Corleone is played by James Caan, who I met when I was working at a hotel in Colorado Springs. Talia Shire is in this. It's just a fantastic movie, and it's about power and greed and even family ties, because Michael doesn't want to get in the family business, and when someone tries to kill Vito, Michael has to kind of step in and become the godfather that he never really wanted to be, and he becomes Don Corleone. It's a fantastic movie. It is easily one of the greatest films ever made, and the sequel is possibly even better, and we'll get to that here in a second. So yeah, easily the best film of 1972 is The Godfather.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
The best movie of 1973, my heart wants to say Enter the Dragon. I love Bruce Lee. I'm a Bruce Lee fanatic. I used to have this big old poster on my wall of Bruce Lee when I was a kid. But as much as I want to say the best movie of 1973 is Enter the Dragon, I have to be honest. In my opinion, the greatest movie of 1973 is The Exorcist. It is the first movie that was a horror film to ever be nominated for Best Picture. It is directed by William Friedkin, written by William Peter Blatty, who also wrote the book. So we're seeing a consistent thing of like the screenwriters being the guys who wrote the books, and that's why it translates so well to the screen. This movie terrified me when I was a kid. I'm a Bible-believing Christian. I believe in the Word of God wholly and entirely. So I believe in demonic possession. So when I saw it on screen for the first time, this movie terrified me. It is regarded as the scariest film of all time. It is a slow burn where you watch this young girl, Reagan, who goes from happy and joyful and loving to literally transforming into something otherworldly, just a dark evil. And something that I think the other modern exorcism and exorcist movies get wrong is this demon's just an a-hole. He just is. He just spits on him for no reason. He's just not cool. The practical effects were something jaw-dropping for the first time that no one had ever seen. People were passing out in the theaters, fainting in the theaters. It's a well-written movie. It's an extremely well-made movie. I have to be honest and say that this is the best movie of 1973, especially granted that we're over 50 years later and we're still talking about the impact that this movie has made, and every other possession film since then will be judged by that gold standard, and not one has been able to live up to it. So, best film of 1973, The Exorcist. Best film of 1974 is The Godfather Part II. They cranked out this sequel right away, and usually when they do that, that is a bad sign, but The Godfather Part II is quite arguably the greatest sequel of all time. I would disagree. I think that's Terminator 2, but that's a whole other discussion we'll get to in the 90s. But this movie continues the story, and we really see Michael Corleone go deep into being a ruthless, cold-hearted SOB. He gets so paranoid and doesn't want anyone to get over on him. He first got into the family business for family because of his dad and what happens to Sonny in the first movie, and he ends up completely alone at the end of Godfather Part II because of his ruthlessness. So he's the Don, like he's the top dude, he's the gangster of gangsters, but he loses everything that matters to him in it. It is a cautionary tale. The life of Michael Corleone is not something to aspire to be, it's something to run very far away from. But what this movie does really cool is it also goes back in time and shows the rise of Vito Corleone, his father, and how he became the Godfather and how he gained the respect of everybody in his neighborhood. It's a fantastic movie. I don't know which one I like better, The Godfather Part 1 or Part 2, but man, these movies are absolutely fantastic, and it is easily the best movie of 1974, and I believe it won Best Picture in 74 as well. The best movie of 1975 is easily Jaws. This is the movie that really started the summer blockbuster. We see practical effects being used here again when they made the shark, and what's cool is the shark wasn't working for most of the film, so we see it sparingly, which works better because what you don't see is more terrifying than what you do see. This is also regarded as one of the scariest films of all time because even if you don't believe in demonic possession, you believe in sharks because they're real. I think everybody who's ever been in the water since 1975 thinks of that opening scene where you're just floating and you can kind of get dragged down, man. This movie was terrifying. It's got amazing dialogue, amazing practical effects, amazing acting, and this is the movie that really launched Steven Spielberg into superstardom, and he showed what he's capable of. I believe it was only his second film. He's a very young filmmaker, and this is still one of the greatest films ever made. The 70s is full of these, and easily best movie of 1975 is Jaws. But the best movie of 1976, the best movie of the 70s, my favorite film of all time, Best Picture winner, Rocky. This movie is the story of the ultimate underdog, and the story behind it is so amazing. How Sly even wrote it, right? Sylvester Stallone, he kept getting typecast as just this thug and this villain, and he couldn't get another role, so he wrote another role for himself. And the life of Rocky Balboa mirrors the life of Sylvester Stallone so much, and these two are just married. Rocky Balboa is my favorite character, the Rocky franchise is my favorite franchise, and Rocky is my favorite movie. This is the story of Rocky Balboa, a down on his luck, kind of loser, really, who has nothing really going for him, and he gets this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to fight Apollo Creed for the World Heavyweight Championship. And he doesn't even care if he wins the fight. He just wants to go the distance, which means going to the 15th round and not getting knocked out. And he does that. And what's so amazing about Rocky is we can all see ourselves in this character. He's just someone who's a nice guy, who's a good man at his heart. And when he's given the opportunity to do something he didn't think he could do, he shows everyone what he's really made of. And that has inspired generations because we all know what it's like to think, just give me a chance and I'll show you what I'm made of. And Rocky shows us that we can do that. And he puts in the hard work and the dedication. Every single athlete has been inspired by Rocky, especially combat sports athletes like myself. I'm a wrestler, I wrestled in high school, wrestled in college. I'm the current head coach of a wrestling team here in town. I train mixed martial arts. I've been so inspired by the Rocky movies and just the storytelling and even the filmmaking. It was the first movie ever to use the Steadicam, and we see those shots that is now a staple of filmmaking. Rocky did it first. It absolutely deserved Best Picture winner for 1976, and it kickstarted Sylvester Stallone's career into the superstardom that he's in now. It is my favorite film of all time. Best movie of 1976 is Rocky. But the best film of 1977 is the space opera epic Star Wars. This changed the game forever, brother. We have this franchise still going now, and it all started with George Lucas and his idea to create this epic space opera. And he drew from all different kinds of stories to create this. And I believe, realistically, along with Marvel, Star Wars is our modern mythology. We look at the stories of Odysseus and Hercules and all these heroes from ancient Roman and Greek mythology, and the tales of Achilles and Troy and things like that, right? Star Wars is our modern mythology. You know, instead of talking about King Arthur and the Sword and the Stone, we're going to talk about Luke Skywalker and his fight against Darth Vader and the evil Emperor. And we're going to talk about Han Solo, the smuggling space pirate, and Princess Leia and Chewie. We're going to talk about these characters here. And I really believe Star Wars is our modern mythology. It has already been passed down for generations, and I believe it's going to keep being passed down for generations. It's just this quintessential tale of good versus evil, the classic hero's journey, Luke answering the call, rising to the call, and just talk about Star Wars now. I don't want to get later, or I guess A New Hope, but Star Star Wars. It changed the game in terms of toy sales and what could be done and transporting people to this space world and you know, space battles and ships. Again, a lot of practical effects, but then it started to mix in CGI. It's fantastic. Easily for me, the best movie of 1977 and one of the childhood staples I grew up with is Star Wars. The best movie of 1978 is a movie I've talked about multiple times on this channel, so I'm not gonna spend too much time on it, and that is John Carpenter's Halloween. It is the prototypical slasher. It wasn't the first slasher, but it's the one that really cemented what we see as a slasher. Very basic storyline. Producers, Irwin Yablans, went to him and said, hey, make a movie about a serial killer hunting babysitter. That was it, and he created this story of Halloween, and Michael Myers being the embodiment of evil, where he's kind of human. He's not really supernatural, but he's not quite human. There's something else about him. He's the embodiment of evil. He's the Shape. That's what they called him in the credits and even on set. He wasn't called Michael Myers, he's called the Shape because he's supposed to embody evil. By today's standards, it's pretty tame. I think they had one jar of fake blood that they used in the whole movie. Barely show any blood on screen. In total, there's only 5 deaths in the whole movie. Very little blood. It's very tame by modern standards, but I just think what John Carpenter was able to do with this slow burn, and it's only an hour-and-a-half movie. It's not long at all. So when I say slow burn, it's not even really that slow. But it builds this tension to a masterful ending to where you can watch it in 2025, which I'm going to in a couple months in October. It still hits. It's still just a fantastic movie. Easily one of my favorite movies, and I believe it is my favorite horror film. No, don't believe. I know it's my favorite horror film. Coming in as the best movie of 1978, John Carpenter's Halloween. And to round out the decade, to end it, the best movie of 1979, I'm gonna go ahead and cheat a little bit and I'm gonna give you 2. Why? Because it's my list and my channel and I can do what I want. I'm just kidding. Sorry I yelled at you. I'm sorry that you had to see that outburst. Anyway, so me personally, I want to give best movie of 1979 to Rocky 2. As we just talked about how much I love Rocky, this is a perfect continuation of the story. Only real difference is Sylvester Stallone is directing this time. First time it was John Avildsen. This is Sly directing, but it's such a great continuation of the story. And if you do a double feature and watch them back to back, it feels like the same movie, right? The director of photography is the same. The writing is the same, clearly because it's Sly. And it just carries the story in a way that you want it to. And this is the one where Rocky actually wins. It has a lot of emotional heart to where, you know, when Adrian goes into the coma and then when she says, just win for me, and Rocky goes into the training montage, and by this time, we're not falling in love with the character, we're in love with the character. We're in love with Rocky, we're in love with Adrian, and to see him finally become the heavyweight champion of the world, it's just something special. But I have to talk about the movie Alien. Ridley Scott directed this movie, and it's really a sci-fi creature feature slasher, essentially, because you have this unstoppable killing force hunting people down, hunting down the crew of the Nostromo one by one. And then we get our final girl in Ripley, who defeats the Xenomorph, and she survives. And it's just a terrifying movie. Again, amazing practical effects, the way they created the suit, and you know, use of shadows, and just what went into it, man. It was such a good movie, and I have to talk about that. So, best movies of 1979, like I said, I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna say Rocky 2 and Alien, because it's my list and I can do what I want. But that's all I have for today. What did you think of our list of the best pictures of 1970s? Let me know down below if you agree, if you disagree. What is your favorite movie of that decade? Hit that notification bell, hit the like, share, and subscribe button. It helps out the channel tremendously. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in the 90s. And I'm also gonna start doing little movie reviews of our classics. Like I'm gonna go ahead and give you a review of Rocky and tell you why that is the greatest underdog story of all time and why Rocky is great, or why Halloween is the greatest slasher ever made. And we're gonna keep going into stuff like that. So let me know if you're excited for that. I'm looking forward to doing it, and I will see you guys in the 90s. And remember, I love you, Jesus loves you. That's our story and we're sticking to it. See you guys.